Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is part of a two-part series titled The Things We'd Do Differently If We Were Starting Our Businesses Again. The reason we've got this in here is because we know intimately that if you are a listener here, you are a woman who is interested in her own growth and her own vision and work in the world and purpose that you would love to have run alongside your desires and dreams to be the mother that you want to be, have the family that you want to have, and parent the way that you desire to. And I think that's part of what makes Bridget and I'm going to say so special, is because I don't see a lot of people out there who are living the life alignment, who are full-time stay-at-home mothers whilst also developing ourselves and the work that we do in the world. And that's not at what we perceive to be the expense of how we wish to invest in our children and our relationship and our family. And I think that's actually quite extraordinary. So we have been running Nourishing the Mother for 7 years now.
Yeah, we're just coming up to 7 years, which is massive. And I think for those listeners who've been with us for a long time, you've seen the evolution of us and of what business can look like for us and how we weave that into family. And so this two-part series is really, an invitation for you to see us, reveal the curtain, I suppose, on our learnings, on things we might do differently. And we hope it's really permission giving as well for you to perhaps see beyond the confines of where you maybe find yourself now, and to see how it can be really purposeful for your family as well, for you to embark on more of a, your own service to the world, whether that is, really growing yourself inside your career or whether it's going out on your own and creating a business. So we hope you enjoy this one.
Yes. So how it's going to roll is we have 8 things we do differently per podcast. So part 1 and part 2 will have 8 completely separate learnings that we have both reflected on and gone, man, if we had our time over again, here's the things that we would do differently. So we're hoping that our 7 years of aged wisdom in running business and family across, I have 4 children and Bridget has 3. So my eldest is 15, my youngest is 4, Bridget's eldest is 9 or 8.
Nearly nine, and my youngest is 2. So
it's a lot of children. That's births and pregnancies and lots in between. So 8 learnings per podcast. Let's get into it. Learning number 1. Bridgie and I both went, we wish we had understood it and got a coach or joined a mastermind earlier.
Yes. And that is because there was so much time fumbling in the dark. You and I would listen to podcasts, and we'd read snatches of books, and we'd look at friends who were doing things, and we'd kind of scurry off in this direction, and then we'd scurry off in that direction, and really didn't have a sense of what we were doing. It was just fumbling through the dark.
Yeah, it really was. But I also think back then we were making basically nothing out of nourishing mother. We were both on single. I don't think you. I think actually you were working when we began, but I was a single income family, and so it was this real case of, well, you know, I can't afford to invest in my business, and what would be the point? And you know, when and if I get to that point, then I'll blah blah blah. So, you know, that was probably, we didn't invest in a coach. So Carly Marie was our first coach, and we didn't invest in her until what, 3 or 4 years down the track.
That must have been like 2018 or 2019, maybe 2019. So yeah, it was years. Really. And I think that was also, it was years. And I think we really came at it from this place of like, we can't not do this. And it was really for us community first and conversations first. And I think a business really for us was kind of like, oh yeah, we could do that. Like it wasn't
a business, right? We had the whole year that we were just paying out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
And we went, there's a community that wants to do more with us.
Yes. So we kind of did it like the opposite way that I guess many people come to podcasting now. People choose to podcast as a way to
as a business
build their business, right? Or as part of business strategy, as part of a selling tool, whereas really our podcast was never that. It's never that at all. No. And so
we were lonely. We were like, surely there's other women in the world who want to have these conversations. Like, what if we could join them all? And you know, we just had this vision of community.
Yeah. Which is actually a beautiful place to be in. But I think you and I stayed there for a really long time.
Really long time. Longer than we needed to. Yeah. It became procrastination in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I can see that there was a lot of minimizing. I mean, I'll just speak for myself, Bridgie, and you jump in, but I can see that I minimized what it was or could be. Was too scared to really leap into the vision. You know, I'd have these moments like almost privately in the dark, like it could be this. And I see the world like this, that's so different to the employee mindset that was all I had around me in friends and family. And here I was in this world that could look completely different. And no, it was like this dirty secret. I was like, I almost can't say it out loud because it'll, you know, disappear. Like
it's almost like a bubble that might be popped if you say too much about it.
Yeah. Or I'm just going to look like a fool or whatever it was. And so I didn't share it with my husband. So it became this like side thing I did on my own, which I don't now see as healthy or constructive. And I couldn't share it with many friends because it was like this, you know, oh, Julie doing that little thing over there. You know?
And on that point, like this is also where like masterminds or any kind of, you know, aligned group is helpful, because when you are not surrounding yourself with people who are where you want to go or what you want to create, then you will slip into like that employee mindset. Like even I was chatting to my auntie at Christmas and she was like, so like, how do you actually have a business? Like, how does that even, like, tell me how, like, what do people even pay for? Like, it was just such a mind like blowing concept, this idea that, well, you create content that people really like and then they pay you to learn more with you and be in your spaces and grow with you. It just was a foreign concept. Yeah. And so if you have too much of that around you, then you kind of go, oh, maybe my dreams are ridiculous and maybe actually this isn't going to go anywhere and maybe I should just get a job and maybe I should just put my kids in care and, you know, like go down that path. And it was a really like interesting reflection for me after that conversation where I was like, wow.
The growth. Hey.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been her, and
there was a time you would have thought exactly like her. I totally get it. Yeah,
totally. So that's a big one.
Yeah, coach and mastermind earlier, because that is a game changer. What you invest in that space should theoretically come back to you tenfold. It might be that money follows after you've gained wisdom, support in community, and mindset changes that change your manifestations in a physical form, which then result in clients and money. So there can be a lag time in there, but backing yourself enough to invest in putting yourself in that mindset, mentality space, and therefore manifestation is something I wish we had done or I had done way earlier. So,
and also when you do go into those spaces, they're designed to trigger you.
Yeah.
in the way that you think. And I remember, like, I mean, I actually did invest. I think before we started Nourishing Mother, I like invested in a coach.
You always did. Yeah. You
but I think in hindsight, like, that was
you invested in huge, big vision coaches, though.
Like, I did. I did, and this is when I was earning really good money, and like I was like smashing my personal growth, kind of like hammering myself, right? And what I also learned with that, and this is where I come like linking back to the importance of the mastermind or coach that you choose. It's really important that your coach or whatever mastermind you tap into respects, understands, and acknowledges your own values. Because if you put yourself into a space and you subordinate to a coach or to a person, you will lose yourself in that, minimize yourself, self-flagellate, spin around in circles, and actually not get very far. Because it's important to help people grow in alignment with their own values and not impose your values onto people. And that can be what happens in a lot of coach client dynamics, is this, you know, I'll pay you for you to give me what you've got, but if what you've got doesn't even match my life, then like it's futile. I'm never going to get there. And so accepting that when you move into a space with a coach or into a mastermind, to allow it to trigger you, but also allow it to help reveal you to yourself and learn what is for you and what's not for you. Because I certainly have worked with coaches who would say, just do this and just do that, but that was their values, not my own.
Or too fast, too soon.
Yeah, because that's another thing that you'll just end up like actually being shocked by or so triggered by, that you kind of crawl back into your safe little nest, like never to peek out again, right? Like
that quickly, yeah, because sometimes that leap requires all of this deconditioning and steps or foundations that support your business or structure in order to get there. So the growth sometimes looks slower than spaces that you're in. And I completely love what you said, because you will get nowhere, spin on your heels, and minimize or flagellate yourself for not achieving blah 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 if it's not the right space for you.
Yeah.
If it's the right space for you, there's always a continuation of growth. It might be slow and plateaued at some points in that year, and then, you know, huge when you hit that, you know, nail on the head.
Everything kind of connects. Yeah,
like growth isn't linear, but sometimes there's slower periods and then faster periods. But over the course of that, however long you're with that coach for or mastermind for, there's always a consistent level of growth and support and honoring your value system, rather than this continuous minimization of who you are and how you're showing up.
Yeah, and it also too that when you are going into like this, we'll get to this point, but expecting that it'll reveal to you where like the parts of your life that are not growing or that do feel stuck, and that you might go to a container for business coaching, but it's going to reveal all these other areas. And so can that person who you're being helped by help you through those other areas, right? Because
you are your business.
Yeah, right. And so so a constant thing, and coaches that I sought often were mothers who were further along the path than me, who I could see were doing what I wanted to do. Because for me, the biggest challenge, and an ongoing one that I parent myself through, is balancing the mother that I want to be with the business that I want to grow.
Yeah.
Whereas if I put myself in these macho, like masculine smash goals, 6-figure years, like, just kind of like scale, they're not considering my value on family. In fact, they're probably minimizing my value on family. Yeah. And
probably not parenting their children.
Probably outsourcing it all. Yeah. Right. So,
which is fine if that's your value system. Totally.
Exactly. Cool. It's a perfect space for you if that aligns.
That person.
Don't, because it's just going to get your back up. You're going to like dig your heels in, and it's going to be like you fall flat. So I emphasize this because I've been through that. Yeah. And you end up beating yourself up and think, why can't I be like that? But actually your brilliance is in your values, not in you trying to insert yourself in someone else's.
Love that so hard. Which maybe we'll just do point number 2, Bridge, which you brought up, which is your business will trigger you and you will meet your edges.
Yes. God, in so many ways and on so many days, right? Like around your voice, around being seen, around where you know you stop, around valuing what you do and it being worthy and who you are. Yeah. And also clearly where you need to grow, like, you know, being like cultivating the capacity to take feedback and criticism and like practicing leaning into that and not making it, you know, like not just being in this ego response, but instead being able to practice hearing it. Like all of this stuff is going to come up as you run a business, particularly when you run a business as you, because there's nothing to hide behind. There's nothing, like there's no, you know, in my case, like, there's no cubicle to go sit in a corner in and like bury yourself. Like you are it. And that can be extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be. I actually am super grateful that you and I started business. I mean, actually, you had Suburban Sandcastle, so you were already out on your own. And I had practitioner history, but it looked incredibly different to this new age version of online, you know, facilitation spaces. I hadn't grown up as a practitioner in that era. You know, I grew up when you were still advertising in the local newspaper and doing flyer drops around the neighborhood. Like that's the marketing that I grew up with as a naturopath. So you and I both had individual experiences, but what I'm super glad about and super thankful for every day is that we learnt together in a partnership and relationship through this incredibly bumpy passageway to understanding business and the online world and what it opens up for you that we have now. I'm so grateful that I had someone to fall back on and to walk that path together with and to bounce ideas off of. And when I was collapsing, usually you were sailing and we would do this beautiful
dance.
Yeah, it was almost like these two, you know, waves that moved in, like sound waves that moved in opposite directions. And I just always knew when I was slumping, you'd be up. And when you were slumping, I was up. And so our business maintained a sense of consistency because there were two of us.
Yes, and that's also what made it possible to run a business through babies and pregnancy, because there was somebody who could be the anchor when the other person was like, you know,
we totally did. Yeah, when we were birthing babies, when we were in a newborn phase, you and I just, one of us would take over more and the other would step back. Through life phases, we always supported each other in those ways.
Yeah.
So I do think, though, in terms of partnerships, it is like being in a relationship with somebody. So it's not as easy or effortless as you think.
Yeah.
So if you're going to enter it, like I actually think I would do that again. I would 100% go into business with you again and learn the way that we did. I would 100% choose that again. I guess what I'm saying to people is be careful who you pick on that journey, because it is like being in a relationship with somebody. If you don't have good communication and structures for your communications, it will go to shit very quickly and probably nastily, and you'll lose that friend. So, I mean, Bridgie and I have had to develop our relationship across the years, right? In order to
absolutely.
A business, we have had to have impeccable communication and the ability to love each other through our own triggers, no different to any intimate relationship, right?
Exactly the same. Like really, in terms of like witnessing that other person struggle and like, you know, get into these patterns that you can see happening and like, you know, love them through them and coax them out of them in a way that allows you to still stay in a respectful relationship. I mean, like it is an art form, really, like to be able to, I guess, orient to that, prioritize that as well, because it's so important for the function of your business that you communicate well. But that, yes, expect that it's a little bit like, you know, group work when you were back at uni, right? And like it was all about the group you were in. Like if you were in a shit group, it was a hell time, right?
Yeah, totally true. So when we're talking about your business will trigger you, it's amazing to have support on this journey. I would 100% recommend teaming up with somebody, being in a mastermind or being coached, if that's where you're at, or running a business together, cool. Pick your person. Know you're still going to be triggered as fuck. Doesn't matter where you go. Whatever you focus your attention on, or wherever your values are, will be where your shadow will present itself for your growth. So if you were focused solely on parenting, it's where your shadow would be. It's where your challenge would be. If you're focused solely on work, it's where your challenge would be. It's where your shadow would be. You can't escape challenge and shadow. So no one is getting an easier ride anywhere. Just live in alignment with your values and don't expect it to be trigger free because it's something you love.
Yeah, exactly. And also too, on that point, if you're wanting to make this leap from working for somebody else to working for yourself, expect that you're going to get just as much challenge and just as much things you don't like, but just in a different form, right? So where it was the person outside governing you, you have to govern you. Like, there is no palming it off. Right? Like, you've got to like govern yourself through it. And sometimes you're not going to want to. And so like that is part of the trigger of running your own business too. And how you prioritize that, and your family and your home and other relationships and people needing things from you and all of that.
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by our masterminds. So Bridget, what have you got going on?
Reimagining Motherhood, the Mentorship. It's your 3-month immersion to support your mothering journey, your business and your relationship, and help them all work together so beautifully with a container of women very intimately held by me, and also one-to-one sessions with me as well. And Jules?
Hang on, you can find out more about that where?
I can find out more about that at bridgetwood.life, and it is 1111 for the 3 months. And you, Jules?
Wildflower, Mentorship and Mastermind. So it's a mix of healing for the practitioner to expand your skills, and Mastermind business journey. So it's 6 months, includes a weekend intensive in-person experience. You can find out more at julietenner.love/Wildflower Mastermind. It's a 6-month journey for 2333. So let's lead on to point number 3, which is legitimize your business and your time.
Oh, this is huge. This is such a big one. And you and I, so Julie and I have run this podcast, obviously, with what are we up to, 340 something episodes now. And so all of these like hundreds and hundreds of hours of recording time, we have shoehorned into like weekend mornings, like late nights. It's really been baby naps. When have you got a sliver of time? We've got a podcast, right? Like every week. And there's been we always show up for it. But it's also that thing, you and I both on this dance where it's can this take up this much space in my life? Can my business trump my family right now? How do I make my partner see this as legitimate? And all of that stuff was just leading us personally back to, in ourselves, owning this as purposeful, necessary, contributing work to our families, to our children, to the world. And so whenever we've been wobbly, other things creep in. Somebody needs something. Husbands get irritated.
Yeah. Children are whingy.
Babies
stop sleeping.
Babies won't nap. Babies wake up when they shouldn't.
Even saying that, we have done podcasting. We've done this business with babies on our lap and at our breasts.
Yeah.
We've done it when they've woken up from naps and we've got to just pause, hang on a minute, I've just got to go settle my baby, or, got to stay here while we continue the conference. We have done this with our mothering. You and I would catch up for play dates and do business.
Yeah.
We'd go out and talk vision and strategy. We have done it alongside children at our feet.
100%.
Yeah.
And that actually, and it's been for us, a deeply inspiring thing to do, but also a practice of legitimizing in the face of what could, motherhood could easily consume you. Or, your relationship challenges could easily consume you. Yeah. And so it's coming back to who are we serving here? Who is this for beyond us? And it's oh, yeah, people need this.
Yeah. So that
bigger than me.
Take you, beyond that moment where you could shy away. You show up.
Yeah.
Totally. So I'm just going to shut my door because I can hear kids yelling outside. Do you mind just talking about how you didn't legitimize your business or time, and then what's changed in how you did, and what the difference has been in your business results or whatever because of it?
Yeah, for sure. So how I didn't legitimize my business and my time would definitely be not letting it really take up space. Like, so not having space and time for doing the hard yards of growing it, that it would be just this organic thing that might unfold, as opposed to something that I'm responsible to grow, that I'm responsible to nurture. Certainly, like, I serve my clients, but it can be very easy to then not sell more. But if I'm not selling more, I don't have a sustainable business. So for me, you know, examples of not nurturing it would be just it ended up kind of getting sidelined, and me just being in a service mode instead of also being in a growing mode, and not having a structure for it, not having a strategy for it, not having something that pulls me forward, so that instead I'm just like flailing here. And so those things are super important to have, like something that drives me forward, that I am inspired to move toward, that I can see is important and necessary in the world, so that it doesn't get consumed by, you know, mothering or family or keeping on top of my home. So that, like, those are examples of how I haven't legitimized it. Definitely minimizing it, like in conversation. Like, I've gotten better at it now, but it can be very easy to just dismiss it as just, oh, this thing I do, right? Without actually considering what it is and the impact it has. What about you?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking as you were saying that, it's so interesting what we consider legitimization, because in my mind, I had attached money to legitimate business. So until I was earning, or my business was earning X, it wasn't legitimate. And yet I never really knew what that number was. And it seemed to perpetually move, right? So it was like this benchmark I could just never reach. So I think it was, when I think about legitimizing it, I wish that I had, it's easy to say looking back when you have the business that you dreamt of back then, but I wish I had trusted my heart and my vision for what I knew it could be more. I wish I had. And I think there's always a time in every small business, which is why the statistics of small business going under are so huge. It's because there's usually this time between 3 to 5 years where you could chuck it in.
Yeah.
Every business, there is a 3 to 5 year, wherever it is in there for you, where you're like, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. I'm struggling to put food on the table. This isn't working anymore. Like some version of that. And I think this is where we talk about the 1% people, or the people that really succeed in business, is because at that point, when it's falling down around you, they still have such faith in what they know in their, like, not from their ego, but what they know in their bones is here and could exist, despite, you know, the world around them saying, you know, this isn't going to work. And I can remember going, fuck, I'm killing myself here for what? For still struggling financially. Like, we were an $80,000 a year single income family with 3 children. It's fucking nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't even know sometimes how we made that work. Like, Nick and I would, anyway, that's a story for another day. So I think there's a time in every business where you get to that point where you're like, I could just go and get a job and it'd be so much simpler. And I literally was having this conversation with some school mums yesterday. They were like, do you remember that time when we were doing your like, they helped me put my resume together, and you were just like, I'm just going to go get like a stupid job somewhere that I can just show up for, earn some money, and like disengage my brain and come back home, because my brain was feeling so full with my kids. And I was like, I'm maxed out. I just like, I can't even, this is not bringing me any return. And yet there was this part of me that didn't really want to do that and didn't really believe that. But it just was the safer narrative for everyone that was around me was, yeah, it makes sense. Of course, this isn't going to work. I should just go get a regular job, you know.
Yeah.
And what I realized is business gives you energy. It doesn't take from your energy, right? So I'm going, oh, I'm maxed out. I've got nothing left. But it isn't true. I just wasn't really giving myself over to my soul and what lights me up. I was in this like toe dip of it rather than like, I'm legitimately legitimizing it. I love it. I'm all in. I was like sometimes 60% in, sometimes 80% in, sometimes 5% in. And then going, why isn't my business loving me back? You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So I wish that you would legitimize, that I would have legitimized who I was and what my vision was earlier. And I think that's only easier to do when you have a community who show you it's possible. I didn't back then. I didn't know it was possible. All I had was my own heart telling me it was. I couldn't see anyone around me doing it. I couldn't see it in a physical form. Not like, I mean, you and I, Bridgie, stand here now going, we are the physical form. It does exist. It can exist. But we didn't have that. You know, the business women I knew did not have the same value on parenting. We're not co-sleeping, breastfeeding, baby wearing. They were not living that life.
That life, yeah.
So legitimize your business earlier, set yourself up to legitimize it well, watch when you're self-sabotaging, and legitimize your time with your partner, right? For me to feel fully inspired and lit up, not a slave to my children, my house, my partner, and never valued and validated. That's because I'm not carving the time out to do the stuff where I light the fuck up in my soul and remember who I am and validate who I am and who I'm here to be. That's on me.
Yeah.
That wasn't Nick, even though I made it about him and whoever not seeing me. I wasn't seeing me. And the second I went, you know, this is not functional. I'm angry at you. I'm not the mum I want to be. I'm tapped out by this point in time. The second I went, I just actually need 3 hours here and 1 hour here and here. And it was like nothing. Yeah. Cool, no worries. And we had a system, game changer. So legitimize your business and your time earlier. We'll move through these ones quickly. So learn your voice. It took us a lot of years to learn our voice.
Yes.
So, like the voice that when we talk about a voice, like a narrative, like the way that you write or speak or how you're communicating in social media and blogs and things. Like it took us both a while to work out. We kind of like tried all of these different ways until we went, this is how I write. This is how I speak. This is who I am. Like it took us a while to find our voice. And I think, I don't know about you, Bridge, but for a while I thought I had to be a voice that sounded like whatever, you know, $47 marketing thing I'd bought at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. And I mean, for me, I had to become a lot more conversational and intimate in my language compared to like the corporate kind of training that I'd come from and like that very corporate communication style of writing, which, you know, I felt like I've been constantly unlearning. So yeah, finding the voice that feels true has been a big one.
Totally. I wish I had done this earlier, which I'm doing now. I work in a month, 3 weeks on and 1 week off. So I do everything. I work really hard, pack it all in the first 3 weeks of every month. And then I essentially disengage from work for the last week. And I just sink back into catch up on my house, catch up on whatever's missing with the kids. And that balance for me just is a freaking game changer.
And do you map that according to your cycle?
No. I don't. I get that you totally could, but then it would be changing every month. Whereas because I run obviously Honey Club and Wildflower as membership groups, it's easier to go, I'm on the first 3 weeks of every month. And that just makes it easy for Nick to know, our family calendar to know, me to have it straight in my head, me to communicate to clients rather than like, hang on, let me check that month. And then, so you could, I think, if that's functional for you. It was one more step that just doesn't fit in with my lifestyle at the moment. It was easier for me just to go 3 weeks on, 1 week off. And that feels pretty good. And if I've honored myself really well in that month, and my periods
It's pretty fine.
Yeah, it's kind of a delightful experience. So, you know, I kind of love nothing more than on day one, sitting down, having a movie in the background and tinkering away on my website. Like that sounds like heaven to me. So,
Yeah.
you know, so 3 weeks on, 1 week off would totally be something that I wish I had known about and done earlier, because that regulation and holding in my nervous system just is a total game changer. Rather than what often happens in your own business, because you don't leave it, is you work 7 days a week, right?
Yeah, and you're just kind of like doing bits and pieces here and there and pulled in this direction and that direction. Yeah.
All the time. So just putting some boundary around it, I would totally do that again. So we've done 5 points. We've got 3 more to go. We said we'd do a launch properly. It took us about 5 years to work out how to launch properly. And we spent all this time going, why isn't this working?
Yes. Yeah, we really like just didn't have that nailed at all.
No, we didn't. That was huge learning. So what I wish we'd done differently with our launch is just actually understood what it means to launch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than what I see even some people doing now is, well, I wrote my one social media post and no one wrote back to me or said anything, Yeah. That's not really a launch, because most people don't see what you have there.
And that's that other thing. I don't know if we've even got this as a point, but it's like being willing to show up to and beyond the place of comfort for you. Like, because of the fact that people just don't see it, it might feel like you are banging your head against like you're yelling at people, right? But actually you're not. It's just that's the nature of social media and engaging human behavior. Like require a lot of touch, a lot of touch points in order to be able to, get somebody on board.
Yeah. So, I mean, our launches, we just were so like, I look back and just laugh at us now when I think about how we were trying to launch back in those early days. I'm like, oh, loves.
Oh, bless.
You tried your best. Point number 7, invest in better audio equipment. So because this was like an on-the-side hobby, we weren't investing anything really in it because we hadn't really legitimized it. We kind of like went super cheap on the audio equipment, which was fine. I mean, look, it got us out there, but just having a better sound experience just has such a better effect for the people that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, it really does. And that was something that we thought we had this cool thing, but it really wasn't where it could have been.
Yes. And point number 8, which we're going to wrap up part 1 on, is not make business a dirty word.
Yes. So it's really one of my triggers, I think, which was, I think, influenced a lot by some of the earlier work environments that I moved through around like skeezy sales and underhanded tactics and just business success at all costs and like family falling apart. Like that was kind of like a narrative that was really strong in my head. And so a lot of my like moving through has been no, like business as expansion, business as a contribution to furthering like consciousness and showing our children opportunities beyond what they might think are possible, expanding our partners' awareness of what we can create in the world, like, business as healing, like, right? Like that was just a really much more life-giving way to learn to see business as opposed to some of the more corporate, like toxic experiences that I've had within business in the past.
I love that you said seeing my business as healing, as on the way to my self-expression and expansion or self-awareness.
Yeah, and that other people feel that, and through engagement and relationship with my business, it gives them permission to have more, right? To deepen their experience of their mothering, of their relationship, of whatever it is that lights them up. And if I look back at all of the people that influenced me, 10, 15 years ago in the online space, it was women doing that. It was women showing you what was possible, that gave you, this new way of seeing the world and yourself in that world and what you could be. And we're just so relational as beings and as women that gift is phenomenal. Like, I am still grateful for the people that were influential to me before I had children, when I had little children, you know, all of that. And so really flipping it around to see the more that you can grow your business, the more you can serve your people. What really, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's been a real mindset shift for me.
Amen to all of it. So tell us how we can join in on business with you, Bridge.
Yeah, so what I've got coming up is the Reimagining Motherhood, the Mentorship. So this is really a deeper space to work with me for around 5 to 8 women only. And it's about taking the underpinnings or foundation of the mothering that you desire to practice in your life and with your family, and then seeing how you can amplify that alongside your relationship and alongside whatever it is in business that you want to do. So maybe you're working perhaps and you're still employed and you're struggling with seeing how that's meaningful to your mothering, and so I help you see that. Or maybe it is you are wanting to create a business and you kind of a bit stuck, and I help you, you know, weave together more meaning there and more capacity. And so it's really about this intensive immersive space for 3 months with me to be able to, you know, help you soar across more areas of your life to bring more joy to your mothering, your motherhood.
And when's that starting?
That starts on the 20th of Jan. So we begin really soon. Yeah, so the spots are filling pretty quick. So you can find out more about that at bridgetwood.life. And what about you, Jules?
So I've had Wildflower for this past year as a business mastermind for everyone that went through Sanctum and Embark, that there was a place for them to continue their, essentially I looked at it as an accountability container, because that seems to be the one thing for me that's been missing in business masterminds, and yet the one thing that pulls me forwards is having an accountability and a hand-holding to show up and get those things done. But I've just changed it. So what I was feeling such an ache towards was coming back this year to more of my practitioner roots and really handing over the development of women's work to other practitioners and healers into the world. So Wildflower has had a makeover. Wildflower is now a 6-month membership container. So there's 2 entry points in the year, which are in January and July, I think it is. And Wildflower is a mentorship and mastermind with me. So we have a container together where you can ask any questions anytime, receive absolute support. And then we have a 1 weekend every 6 months together in person here in Seaford, or you can join virtually for that entire weekend. And that's where we're doing a lot of energy work, one-on-one coaching, up-leveling, and business mastermind intensive experiences. So it's the whole kit and caboodle for the 6 months weekend, once a month 2-hour support and accountability call, and a container where you can ask me anything. So 6 months is 2333, and you can find out more at julietenner.love/Wildflower Mastermind.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So, yes, of course, you can connect to us at nourishingmother.com, Nourishing Your Mother on Instagram or Facebook. And remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering and business journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavour to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.